Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
I got to ask you a little bit about that last song. I just spoke to a fellow Vancouverite. I spoke to Carl Newman from the New Pornographers, who's living in upstate New York now. But we spent a lot of time talking about happy-sounding songs that actually come from a really, really dark place. And Ben, this seems like it might be one of those as well.
It's kind of like that.
Tell me a little bit about Step Into the Darkness.
Step into the darkness. It comes from kind of a dark place, but trying to maintain positivity, and it's a strong message to my love, to my dear girlfriend Alexandra, who I ended up breaking up with after 6 years and having to figure out some stuff within myself, and then we got back together. But for about a year, I carried this what I call a dark cloud over top of me, where I won't call it depression because I wasn't really entirely depressed, but there was something going on, and I couldn't really get to the bottom of it while being in a relationship, because I found myself being cold and kind of pushing her away, and so I kind of had to break down the house and rebuild it. And this song comes from wanting her to know that there's no love lost, that everything that I had ever said to her was true, and I didn't want to be with somebody else, and it wasn't about losing her. It was about figuring my stuff out while still letting her know she was loved.
So is this a breakup song, or is this a song of reconciliation?
It's kind of in the middle. It's about that moment, knowing that you have to do the most terrible, awful thing because it might be the right thing in order to recover from whatever it is. And I sing a lot about light and dark, and in this it's kind of a reversal of roles. I heard you singing my song, but the darkness feels so right. It's saying I gotta switch my tune and talk about and ending things so that maybe we can restart things in a better place.
How does she feel about the song when she hears it now? Has she heard it?
She's heard it just about a million times. I asked her if how she felt about me being honest and talking to people about it, because that's really tough to be honest about songs when you feel vulnerable and you're talking about somebody else's life as well. And of course she said, talk about it. That's what people want to hear. They want to know what songs are about. For me personally, the music I love, I like to imagine what it's about, but when I hear somebody else tell me what their songs are about, I'm usually surprised, or I don't know the backstories. I think she feels good about it because it helped me figure out my little dark cloud, and now we're back together and things are better than they ever had been. And so it's a positive ending to kind of what could have been a sad story.
I know it's not just changes personally either. It's also changes professionally. I know the band has gone from 5 core members down to 3 core members. There's 5 people playing, but there's 3 real members of Said the Whale. Tyler, how does that change things for you guys?
A lot and not at all at the same time.
What do you mean?
Well, live we're still playing as a 5-piece, and the show is louder than it ever has been. Feels really tight. In the studio is where things changed a lot, though. Just less cooks in the kitchen, and of course I say that with respect to the ex-members, but just less creative forces to kind of butt heads and less egos to massage, and just more saying yes to everything, and a lot of just really like kind of nonstop creativity that wasn't hindered by trying to let everybody have their say, kind of as you do in a democratic band.
But I could only imagine it must come with some challenges as well, because I mean you tour. I don't want to get too much into the details of the band shrinking, but I do want to say that at least when you have these kind of relationships with people, when you tour in a van with them for years and years and years, they become like family. So what was that trade-off between having more freedom to make these decisions and then also losing some people very close to you?
Well, yeah, I mean that's a good point. At the same time, it's nice to have fresh blood in the van. Yeah. We're making new inside jokes and having new experiences together. So it's fun. We always like it when the personnel changes a little bit, whether it's a new tour manager, a new sound guy, and now we've got a new drummer, a new bass player, and they're fitting in well so far, and it's been a blast.
Ben, does it feel like the same band, or does it feel like a different band?
It doesn't feel like the same band, but after 10 years, it can be really kind of trying on your patience to sit in a van all day long, and it's easy to get homesick. And so you notice when somebody isn't fully there and not really, excited to be there, and that kind of brings things down a little bit. So having people who are now really excited to be a part of it. And things are new, and you get to share your favorite restaurants and show people all the things that you've learned in the last 10 years of traveling back and
That's
forth.
what it's all
across
about,
the
really.
country.
It's just restaurants.
Just how great the drive from Toronto to Winnipeg is.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Nothing
see,
better.
guys,
See, this is what being in a band is all about.
yeah, so like Tyler said, new blood. It actually, you know, it adds something. We're feeling a little old. You know, we brought down the age average here. And,
That's right. Yeah.
a couple of young dudes is pretty awesome. Also, they're from Ontario, so now we feel like we've got some more street cred.
That's
having
how we
some
got on
Ontario
cue,
guys.
I think.
Yeah, they understand the Snapchat in a way that that perhaps
They're
they
with the
didn't before.
internet.
Yeah, that's how they got him on cue. Yeah, it's mainly Ontarians on cue, as you can tell from me. Ben, you talk a little bit about having to speak about something very personal and getting permission from your partner to have those kind of conversations. But I also know that you also have to kind of get permission from yourself, that you're going to be open and you're going to be vulnerable to strangers. And Tyler, I know you've done this as well. There are 2 songs on this album that really kind of tore me apart when I listened to them. And I feel like they're very much the emotional core of this record. I'm talking about the song Miscarriage and the song you're going to play in a moment, Emily Rose. So I want to talk a little bit about them, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Tyler, Miscarriage is about exactly that. It's an experience that your partner went through. With all respect to you, and I hope this is okay to talk about.
Of course.
But why did you want to share that incredibly personal story?
I mean, the song, to write it was very cathartic. It was kind of like a personal therapy session, I guess. And so, I mean, I just wasn't really thinking about sharing it with people when I wrote the song.
Right.
But then the song exists, and this is what I do. I make music in this band. And yeah, there's just no denying the song, I think, carried some weight and was reacting with close friends and stuff. So it made sense to share it, which can be difficult a little bit. You know, I'd definitely become verklempt on stage at times, because it's a song that speaks very bluntly about a dark time for me, and for my partner as well. Although I'm writing it from my perspective.
But it's the blunt way that I really think that really stuck with me. Like I have a quote I just put down here, if you don't mind. When you bled out, it was like the both of us, and I held your beautiful body. When you put on a brave face for my family, and we had Thanksgiving. Again, you're not speaking about this in large metaphorical terms. You're speaking in a way that people not only can reflect it on their own life, but they understand something very personal that happened to you, and that can't be easy.
Yeah. I mean, exactly what you said. It's quite literally about experiencing a miscarriage while we were having Thanksgiving dinner, and we had to, you know, go to my family's place and kind of like pretend everything was cool because we hadn't told them that we were even pregnant yet. Yeah, it's like it like I feel it even just talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's something that isn't often talked about. And so I think that's something that kind of catches people off guard a little bit. And for that reason, when you're going through it, you don't really tell people about it, and so you're kind of suffering in silence. And there's a lot of anger and a lot of confusion, especially for women, not knowing if their bodies are functioning properly, if there's something really wrong, or if it was just something that happened, because it actually does happen all the time. And when you experience a miscarriage, you start looking on message boards online and stuff, and realizing that it's something that happens all the time. And there are these, you know, there are communities of message boards and stuff online dedicated to people swapping their stories and you know, sharing information to try and help other people go through it a little easier.
It reminds me, and this is the only way it reminds me of it, but I remember reading this story about Under the Bridge, like that Red Hot Chili Peppers song, and that I think it was Rick Rubin found a diary in Anthony Kiedis' house, and he read the lyrics, and it was this incredibly personal song from a guy who up until that point had only written kind of like chaka-laka-maka-maka funk songs. And he said that he had no idea that sharing his own experience would also be so beneficial to the audience as well, that maybe they'd be able to get something from it. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, for sure. Since having performed the song on this tour, and before that, I've had people approach me and say that they've gone through the same thing, and that it was nice to hear a song about that.
How does that make you feel? How does that make you?
I mean, it's overwhelming because I mean, I'm not any sort of advocate for. I mean, I don't feel like a poster boy for like speaking up about the issue.
Yeah.
Because it's such a personal decision whether or not you want to talk about it. It's not something that you have to talk about. A lot of people would rather just kind of put their head down and get through it. But I do think it's something that is totally okay to talk about, and is as common as the flu. In a way, when you start looking into it. So,
but when you start singing about other people, I want to go back to something Ben said earlier again about asking permission. Ben, as a songwriter, when you write songs about not just your experience but other people's experiences as well that may relate to yours or may not, what kind of responsibility do you feel to those people?
Well, I'm never really saying anything bad about somebody or something negative. It's usually about my experience.
But even something
somebody.
very personal from them, something's very personal that happened to them.
I find it that I'm kind of I feel like I'm honoring things with it. That I'm trying to. Oh, that's tough. I don't know. So much of it is shrouded in poetry, in metaphor.
Yeah.
That to actually write literally about things, is when I start to wonder if I were to use somebody's name, like the song "Oh Alexandra" is literally about my girlfriend Alexandra, and so when I sing it live and she's there, she feels bashful, and like I'm looking right at her and singing her name. So I think in the earlier songs, I was still writing about people and things, but I was a little more inclined to kind of color it in with metaphor.
But there's something so beautiful about that directness when you strip some of that stuff away.
It's important to me, and I would love to be able to explain the meaning behind every song and explain who it's about and what it's about. But you don't really get the opportunity to do that in this world. You get 30 seconds to say it on stage, and you never get to say really what it's about. You just get to throw out a little thing, and interviews don't usually ask about what a song is about in depth. You just get kind of the brief moments in time to explain. So I know what every song is about, and most people probably won't, which is, I'd love to write a book someday about what every song is about.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about a little bit in depth the song we're about to hear. It's called Emily Rose. I'll say it's another example of a very personal song on this record. So Tyler, for those listening at home right now, who is Emily Rose?
Emily Rose is, her name is Emily Shane. She was a friend of ours. She actually used to date our old drummer Spencer for a couple of years. And so she came on the road with us. We became pretty tight with her. She was a girlfriend of the band. We all became buds. And then about this time last year, she was killed in a car accident on her way home from work. So it's a musical eulogy to her. I guess her death kind of struck me because she was one of the first people that I knew pretty well to be killed at such a young age.
Yeah.
And so it struck me, and I was feeling really sad for her and for her family.
But back to that question I asked Ben, like, what responsibility do you feel, or how do you feel knowing that you're telling someone else's story like that?
Yeah, I feel a great responsibility. And I actually reached out to a bunch of her friends, kind of individually, and asked their permission, I guess, to use the song in the band and to record it in a studio. I just sent them a demo of it, just because I kind of feel. I felt, and I still sort of feel like I don't own the song. It's a song for Emily, and it's a song for her closest friends and family. And I can't really pretend that I was super close with her. We hadn't spoken in over a year when she was killed. So I asked their permission, and everybody said that it meant a lot to them, and they were very moved by the song. So that felt really nice, and I felt like I was kind of giving that to them a little bit.
Also, I feel like, I didn't write the lyrics, so I got to enjoy it as a song, and I was feeling very broken up about it at the time, and my girlfriend and I shed a lot of tears, and she had quite a far reach, and I also feel now, since then, having lost a few other people that I've known, the song has a broader scope, and some of the imagery of leaving the light on in case you come home feels to me like a comfort to anybody who's lost anyone, and you feel that you don't want to let the light go out. You want to keep remembering somebody forever, and so I've listened to that song and felt strongly about other situations as well. So directly about Emily, but it also has a broader scope around it.
Guys, congratulations on the record.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks very much.
It's a really beautiful thing.